NBA now from a walk-off to a send-off, from a Hawk to a Pelican. DeJounte Murray is New Orleans bound. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski reporting the Big Easy gets one of the best guards in the game.
Sound the alarms, Kev, because we have some NBA news. The Kings have agreed to a sign-and-trade that will see Sacramento acquire DeMar DeRozan from the Bulls in a 3-team deal. DeRozan's going to get a 3-year, $74 million deal.
Breaking news, Chris Paul is speed walking to the Riverwalk, who was cut earlier tonight by the Warriors, intends to sign a 1-year deal with the San Antonio Spurs. That's according to Bleacher Report.
Coach, what are you hearing? Jay, Klay Thompson is on his way to the Dallas Mavericks. I'm told a 3-year, $50 million deal that'll include a player option. It's a sign and trade with the Warriors.
Wow. Just wow. I originally was going to do an offseason checklist for every team after the draft, but I did not expect these headline-shattering free agency moves. Klay Thompson leaving the Splash Brothers, DeJounte Murray to the Pelicans, Chris Paul to the Spurs. It's been wild so far, and I'm sure we have not seen the end of it. So I figured while doing an off-season checklist, let's go ahead and just kill 2 birds with 1 stone and talk about what free agency and off-season moves have already happened, grade them, and what else needs to be done for the team. With that being said, let's break down what each team needs to take their franchise to the next level and see if I would be a good GM. Starting off with the Atlanta Hawks, they solved one problem, but not the other. Finally, they traded away DeJounte Murray. I predicted far back when the Spurs made the trade that DeJounte would not work for the Hawks, and this is the final nail in the coffin, proving that after only 2 years. Having 2 ball-dominant guards was the cause of their downfall. They need an actual shooting guard rather than 2 point guards to take away from each other. However, that's not the overall problem with the Hawks. The original problem was there before DeJounte even got there. The Hawks need an efficient big man to pair with Trae Young. Yes, they need some people to space the floor too, which again is why they need a shooting guard, but they also need someone dominant in the paint, especially with Trae Young's assist numbers. Hence all the Wemby Trae Young trade talks that happened. The best analogy I can give is if the Hawks had a disease and they gave medication, but it was the wrong medication giving an allergic reaction. Once they took care of the allergic reaction, they still had the overall disease to take care of. They got DeJounte Murray, they traded him away again, but they still have the overall problem of needing a dominant big. On top of that, they got almost no return on the DeJounte Murray trade, with some draft picks and 2 players that averaged only 5 points per game. As the joke goes, they traded DeJounte for a bag of chips, with several analysts saying the Hawks are now officially screwed. With the Celtics already winning a championship, the strategy wasn't to get new players or to make changes, it was maintenance and consistency, which they did. They were masterfully quick to re-sign all their players and not let them sign to another team. With this, they're able to, as the cool kids say, run it back, and show people that their championship wasn't a fluke due to injuries. They followed the if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach and focused on continuity with their team chemistry and system. However, if the team doesn't run it back, they have a huge financial problem on their hands with the massive amount of money in each contract. For the Nets, they need to restock picks and get better talent to possibly do a complete overhaul and rebuild. On top of that, Mikal Bridges was already on the chopping block as they'd have to either re-sign him expensively and get a new star to pair with him so he isn't the first option, or simply trade him away, which is what they did. Given how many draft picks were lost and getting the big 3 that never worked, recouping their losses is a bit of a positive. With these draft picks, the full extent of the trade isn't known until we see who they draft, but this could be a really good start to the rebuild. The Hornets need to expand their roster in any way they can. LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and Miles Bridges does not make a powerful big 3. They either need a superstar to pair with LaMelo or get picks to get some more young talent. They managed to get a wing, which adds more options and depth for a team, but again, they need more. However, they got him for basically nothing. Just 2 second-round picks as residual from the Klay Thompson free agency trade. What the Bulls need is to add depth to their roster, given that Lonzo has been injured for so long, especially at the guard spot. They also need to keep and re-sign DeMar DeRozan. Otherwise, even when they get an elite guard, they won't have any role players or teammates to playmake. They're only 22nd in defense and 19th in offense. This is why I'm so perplexed at the fact they traded Caruso. He's only 30 years old, so it's not like he's an older player. He's a guard even though he's behind Kobe White, and he brings amazing defense with 1.7 steals per game, being tied for 3rd per game and also 3rd total this season. Also, this trade was a straightforward transaction. 1 player for 1 player. No draft picks or other superstar talents. Instead, the Bulls got Josh from OKC, who has already been shown to be a liability in the playoffs, as well as carrying all the negative press being called things like Josh P. Giddey. If the team is going to be successful though, they need to work on getting a new owner, as these failures in offseason are due partly to his lack of effort, as he stated he is not going to work hard for trades and is content and happy with just keeping his MJ championships. Update. As was on the checklist earlier, the Bulls need to re-sign DeMar DeRozan, but as I was recording this, he just got sent off to the Kings, leaving the Bulls with only a few 2nd round draft picks and not even a 1st round draft pick. The Bulls are definitely in trouble now, and this may signal the panic button for a new checklist to stockpile picks and rebuild or replace their star somehow. Many will disagree with me, but I really think that this Cavs team can make a deep playoff run. They just need to work out a few more kinks. One of the major things is getting them adjusted to the atmosphere of the playoffs, with players like Jarrett Allen stating that the lights are too bright. However, I've mentioned that if this team was in full force, that it reminds me of the 2014 Spurs. This season, they finished 7th in defense. The year before that, they were 1st in defense, and the year before that, they were 5th in defense. However, their defense has been lacking, as only one of those years they finished in the top half of teams in offense, with being 8th in offense in the 2022 to 2023 season. However, that same year, they lost in the 1st round in only 5 games. Again, many may say to dish out Allen, Mitchell, or Garland for picks or another star, but I say to keep them and help them develop the team more for the playoffs and realize their strengths. Mitchell can help a lot with this, as he helped Garland's confidence in the playoffs and has shown that he is a leader. This is shown when he passes the ball out to Garland even after a miss, and Garland proceeded to switch to 3. The question is what else needs to be done to get the team ready. They could get another shooter or a new development team. They just hired a new coach, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. The Mavericks made it to the finals with their Kyrie and Luka pairing. They just need one more piece. I would have liked them to get another big to pair with PJ Washington in order to go against teams like the Nuggets, or to better help against teams like the Timberwolves with Gobert and Cat. They did lose Derrick Jones Jr., which was important to their playoff success, but many memes have been made about Tim Hardaway, so he won't be missed as well, as obviously they managed to pick up Klay for practically some picks and nothing else. I still think that Klay has a lot left in the tank. But of course, if Klay performs like he did in the last postseason game, many will see this as a failure, so they need to have him step up. What the Denver Nuggets need is to add depth at the center spot. Of course, Jokic is one of the best players in the league right now, but against tough teams, he can't do it all himself. Did you all see how gassed he was playing the entirety of Game 7 against the Timberwolves? The team needs more bigs in order to keep up. They need more players like Aaron Gordon. Also, not to be that guy, but maybe on the checklist should be giving Jamal Murray some sportsmanship lessons, and the coach too while they're at it. They did lose KCP, who added depth at the guard position, but he isn't as big of a loss as some other options. They haven't made any moves yet to complete anything on the checklist, but they also didn't have too many losses. They also picked up a decent big man through the draft to hopefully add depth, like I was saying. So it's an even C until they complete some more. Oh boy, the Pistons. Where do I start? Well, at least they have a decent guard in Cade Cunningham, but he doesn't have any decent teammates to playmake with, leading to the longest losing streak in NBA history. I would start by getting a shooting guard or power forward to create either another shooter or to create lob and paint threats for the team. They could also see what assets they can get for certain players or draft picks, seeing as how they've missed the first pick for the last couple years now. They re-signed Cade, which was a must, but I wouldn't have been surprised if he tried to leave given the absolute dumpster fire that was this team. However, in free agency, they were able to get big pieces including Malik Beasley, Tobias Harris, Jim Hardaway, and Wendell Moore. These players aren't elite, but they're huge pickups for the team. I mean, what did you expect? Them to get Luka or something? They're the Pistons. But they also upgraded coaches after Monty Williams' failures. So, this team could be headed in a very positive direction. The Warriors had a massive blow as they failed to re-sign Klay and lost him to free agency. However, they did manage to try and fill in the gaps as best they could. Of course, people are going to talk about Klay's poor performance in the playoff game, but he's still a fantastic shooter, which the Warriors need with Curry. Curry needs help. The Warriors also need to take care of Draymond. If anyone on the big three were to leave, it should have been Draymond, and the Warriors could have upgraded at the power forward position, as well as having less fights that would have caused players to leave, such as Poole and KD. While the Warriors can try and put a band-aid over losing Klay, this blow will definitely take its toll. They also need to get draft picks for the day that Curry inevitably retires. The Houston Rockets have not made any meaningful subtractions or additions to their roster. However, they need to. The Rockets have filled their roster with mediocre veteran players and have not seen success. While they haven't done anything to make their team worse, they also haven't done anything to make their team better. They need to be more proactive and make some trades for draft picks or better players with their assets. The Indiana Pacers managed to re-sign two big players of theirs as well as pick up James Wiseman, but lost Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith was a decent big, but they have Siakam now, so he wasn't really needed. Wiseman, however, can be a good piece at center while Siakam continues to play the 4 spot. There isn't much to say for them as they didn't do anything massive, but what they did do was decent. Why would you re-sign Harden?
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
Harden is an absolute liability. On top of that, they failed to re-sign Paul George, who again is chasing the bag. Him leaving is the start of the end for the Clippers, as this will open the door for more players to leave. They need more superstars that actually stay healthy and will perform better. I'm not going to do a whole rant here, as I already have a full analysis on the Clippers' failures. So for a bigger explanation on what the Clippers need to do this offseason, go check it out. Every year, people have high expectations for the Lakers in free agency, expecting them to get every free agent there is every year, and yet it never happens. Just because the Lakers are a popular team doesn't mean every player and every contract is going to them. However, the Lakers do need to do something. They signed LeBron to 2 years for over $100 million, and the only reason is for him to play with Bronny, as he obviously hasn't been able to carry a team for a championship, and there's question if he'll even be healthy for this season. Even though he's signed for 2 years, he could easily retire after 1 year with Bronny. The Lakers need to get another star player, especially when half of their team gets injured. They also need to get more picks for when LeBron does retire, in order to keep the team filled with talent. However, they can build up Dalton Connect, but obviously we don't know yet what the outcome of him on the team will be. On top of that, obviously they need a proper coach. I've gone on several rants about how the coach of the Lakers is used as a scapegoat, and LeBron is a huge reason for that. And I have another video coming out soon about the overall problem of NBA coaches in general. They need a veteran coach rather than getting these one and done year coaches that don't make the team better. People have put a lot of faith in JJ Redick to steer them in the correct direction. But I predict that, as always, the Lakers will finish as a less than 600 team, and they'll fire Redick for it. The Grizzlies have 0 re-signings, 0 departures, and 0 arrivals, so there isn't much to grade on their efforts this offseason. However, like the Rockets, they should be doing more, especially since they lost Steven Adams a while back. They need another big to pair with JJJ, as well as add some depth at the guard spot, as Ja has not been playing. However, I can't give them anything lower than a C, since they didn't technically lose anyone. The Miami Heat's biggest problem is depth. Previously, they had players like Kyle Lowry and made it all the way to the finals. This year, they have Rozier and Tyler Hero, but with Butler injured, they failed in the first round. Although they did win a team against the would-be champs even with this diminished roster. However, they need to add more pieces around Butler that can also work when he gets injured. However, they still didn't lose anyone too big or make bad re-signings like the Clippers with Harden, so I can't necessarily give them a D. What they need to do is re-sign their coach, as his contract ends this season and he's been amazing for them. Again, winning a game against the championships even with just their role players. The Milwaukee Bucks lost Malik Beasley, but it wasn't a big loss. What they need most is to replace Drew Holiday. I've said many times that the Drew trade should not have happened in the first place. Damian Lillard has been sort of 50-50 for the team, but either way, his offense does not make up for the defense that they lost. Considering how easy it was for the Thunder to get Caruso, that would have been a really good pickup in order to add to the Bucks defense. However, they're stuck with their losing roster at this time. On top of that, Doc Rivers. I said as soon as he joined that this would be a splinter in the team's side. I have many videos talking about his failures. They need to get rid of him and add another guard that can defend. Given how close the Timberwolves were to the finals, I expected them to make more moves. Instead, they lost Kyle Anderson and others. I stated in my Rudy Gobert trade video that what they need is another guard to help Ant out and defend against smaller, quicker players like Luka. However, they didn't deal out Gobert or Cat like a lot of people were pushing them to do, as that would have been a terrible decision, so I can't rate them too low. But getting someone like Caruso would have really helped them make the last push they need to the finals or even a championship. The Pelicans lost out on re-signing Valanciunas, which is a bit of a loss, considering Zion's health in order to keep the spot on the court filled. However, they did manage to get DeJounte Murray, which could be a good addition, opening CJ McCollum to be a shooting guard like he was with Damian Lillard, spacing the floor and adding some assist when Zion is healthy. Also, as many people have joked, and like I said in the Atlanta section, DeJounte wasn't expensive at all, getting him, again, as a bag of chips, like the joke says. If they had not lost Valanciunas, I would have given them a much higher grade, but they still deserve some praise for the fleece that they pulled off. the Nova Knicks project is finally complete. All they really had to give away was Bohan, whose stats were already on a decline, while Mikal Bridges is already doubling his points. Many reports have already been written about how Mikal does not work as the first option for the Nets, but he does work really well as a second option. He's already averaging 19 points per game over Bohan, as well as he's played every single game that he could, which is perfect for the Knicks coach. With the Nova Knicks, there's already built-in team chemistry which will add to their success. Brunson now has more options to playmake that he already knows how to maximize. People talk about how many draft picks they had to give up for this trade, but considering that they were one win away from the conference finals, they don't need to stockpile them as much as other teams would. OKC was a dominant force in the playoffs despite being a young team. They finished as the #1 seed and made it further than most people expected. They just need a few more pieces to be a championship team, as well as work on foul trouble that cost them to lose against the Mavs. As mentioned before, they absolutely fleeced the Bulls, so not much else can be said there. OKC was already 4th in defense this year and 2nd in the playoffs. Adding Caruso is only going to further expand that. I can definitely see them making the conference finals or even finals this year now. The Magic really need to add more role players around Banchero. Considering everything, getting KCP is a pretty good pickup. They could have gotten more, especially since, as I write this, Lauri Markkanen is still up for grabs. However, they've been shopping around to deal Joe Ingles for a while, so they got a decent deal for him. They also didn't lose anything too major in terms of other departures. The 76ers finally got some good pieces. I'm glad that they got rid of Tobias Harris, as I want Tyrese Maxey to show people what he's capable of. They really expanded their roster, adding Paul George as well as Eric Gordon and Andre Drummond. It's disappointing that they got rid of Buddy Hield, but to have this new lineup is sure to help them from staying first round exits. I hope to see some lobs with Paul George and Tyrese in the future. What the 76ers needed wasn't another guard like Harden, it was another dominant big. Now, we just have to see if Paul George actually cares to win or if he's just going to sit back and collect his money like in LA, which is why I have to add the minus onto this A of a trade. The Suns are completely screwed after their last free agency moves. They created this expensive lineup that simply does not work. But everyone is on multi-year contracts, so they can't do anything about it. The Suns hired a new coach to see how well Bud handles it, but I don't think it'll be much different. But at least it's worth experimenting because what else can you do? They did good with their re-signings, only re-signing people to 1 year, given again their expensive contracts that they have to deal with. If they could have gotten rid of the contracts that they had in KD, Booker, and Beal, they would be better. But for right now, they're stuck. What the Blazers need to do now is a full rebuild. They traded for Denny, who is a good player, averaging 19 points per game currently. However, they did have to give up Brogdon. This offseason was really dependent on what their draft pick would be. Donovan Cleon was an excellent pickup for them that could help be a good start to the roster. However, they really need to get Scoot up to speed, especially with the height of him being a second pick and only playing in the G League. This team is only one bad season away from officially being the new Pistons. The Kings have been on a tremendous journey the last few years, going from an incredible playoff drought to nearly beating the Warriors. Much of this credit will go to De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, but it truly is the whole core that deserves the credit. They really just need to bring back their whole core and most importantly keep their coach, as he has been the key to their success. Being a disciple under Popovich, and bringing it to Sacramento, as I did a whole video explaining. Bringing back Monk and Mike Brown, I have to give them massive props, even if they didn't add anyone crazy. They just need that one extra piece to beat some higher seeded teams and not be in the play-in. Update. As stated in the Bulls section, the Kings acquired DeMar DeRozan at the loss of Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes is a good piece to their core, but obviously DeRozan is better, and they play similar positions. My only concern to work on would be to make sure DeMar DeRozan fits into the system and is a team player, rather than being too ball dominant and disrupting the team's flow. Regardless, they got an all-star talent for the cost of just Barnes and some picks, which bumps them up to an A-. The Spurs have had a phenomenal offseason, managing to draft Stephon Castle and pick up Chris Paul. The Spurs have been needing a guard to pair with Wemby, and they got that in the draft in order to keep a young core that grows together. On top of that, because Chris Paul was waived, they got him at zero cost, pairing the point guard with Wemby, with many jokes already being made that Chris Paul will end the season with 100 assists a game. On top of that, Chris Paul has immense respect for Popovich and will help develop Castle to be the new point guard after Chris Paul retires. On top of that, there are reports that they're trying to even turn Keldon Johnson and picks to the Jazz in exchange for Lauri Markkanen, which would be a crazy front court duo with Wemby. The only loss they took was Devontae Graham, who the Hornets ended up waiving anyway. A lot of people may want me to mention the Rob Dillingham trade, but the Spurs ended up getting some picks out of it, and with how much the Spurs end up finessing people in trades, I'm sure that they're going to turn those picks into something great. I have faith that there's a plan in motion. Update. Again, the Spurs have also gotten Harrison Barnes from the Kings, who, while not an all-star talent, will really help fill out this roster, especially at the power forward spot, allowing Wemby to stay at center and Sohan to play small forward. This is a decent pickup at a low cost, although it means that they may not get Lowry now. This bumps them up to a solid A. The Raptors are also down the road of doing a rebuild after losing Kawhi. They obviously aren't going to win a championship with only Scottie. A huge problem has lied before them as they've traded a majority of their picks to teams like the Spurs, so obviously that puts a massive hole in the rebuild plan. They did get Davion Mitchell, who could be a good guard for them, but obviously they need more. They need to start stockpiling picks like the Thunder have done. At this time, the Jazz offseason is incomplete, as they still have not re-signed or gotten a return on Lauri Markkanen, who is their best player. With how long they're waiting to re-sign him, they better get a big deal for him or re-sign him at a good cost. Otherwise, they'll be left with nothing. If the Jazz lose Lowry for someone below his skill level like Keldon Johnson and a few picks, this would be a massive blow to the Jazz and tank their standings. But for now, we have to wait and see. However, the fact that they've waited this long will only make the offers cheaper and increase the chances of a low return value on him, bringing the grade of this offseason drastically down for them. The Washington Wizards are an absolute dumpster fire like the Pistons. However, they did manage to get Sarr. Poole and Kuzma both still have a multi-year contract with the team, so they can't be dealt out for more better pieces. I did not expect them to get anyone crazy like Klay Thompson, as they don't have the necessary assets. However, they did still manage to get Valanciunas and Brogdon, who will definitely boost them a bit out of the bottom of the conference. What they need is more draft picks or assets in order to pull in better players. They also need more confidence in their fan base as a whole, given that they were thinking of relocating the entire team before the legislation was taken against it. For more information about the Wizards, check out the last part of my Wizard Timeline video where I talk about there has been no faith in the fan base in Washington. And with that being said, that's my offseason checklist for every team, as well as my grade for every free agency move that's been made so far as of July 6th. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments, and thank you guys as always so much for the support. I truly mean that. My most competitive season video is so far my second highest view video ever on this channel, and who knows, maybe it can become the most viewed by the end of the year. My goal this year was to hit 10K by December, but we're already about to hit 7.5K by early July. So let's see what we can hit by the calendar turning over to 2025. If you guys even further want to support me, there are links to my socials such as Discord and Instagram in the description where you can follow me. Or you can support me directly by becoming a YouTube member or patron. If you don't feel like doing any of that, you can always like and subscribe and share the video around, as that does help me out a lot and it makes the YouTube algorithm happy. Again, thank you for your continued support, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now.